with senior officers. So he was an actually dude. Actually? So this may have been the reason that in 1810, at the age of 23, he formally retired from the British Army. I love this. The uniforms are so cute. Uniforms for what? Or is that related? Because I'm thinking that's related to your sister, but I'm like, they wouldn't have uniforms in that job. The rules lawyer type of dickhead. Oh, yeah, exactly. So he and his wife initially moved to Edinburgh, where he exaggerated his military accomplishments and attempted to gain entry to high society through conspicuous spending and self-promotion. This failed miserably, so they returned to London. So here he began making claims to be a MacGregor of Glengill, which is the ancestral home of the MacGregor clan in Scotland. So he even claimed to have inherited the clan chief's position. He called himself Sir MacGregor, a title he had absolutely no right to, but one which his portrait in the National Portrait Gallery is listed under to this day. So he just gave himself the title of Sir, and it stuck. So this did get him some position in London society, but that was primarily due to his wife's extensive family connections. He was also entirely dependent on her income, and when she died in December of 1811, he was left essentially destitute. With nothing left in London, the 25-year-old decided to leave the city and seek his fortune somewhere new, somewhere like South America. So in early 1812, he took a boat to Kingston, the capital of the British colony of Jamaica. His first taste of South America was to his liking, though few in the city had much time for an ex-military man with a dubious reputation. So he then headed to Caracas. I can never say that word right because I want to say Caracas, and it's not. It's Caracas. So he then headed to Caracas, the capital of the newly independent Venezuelan Republic, where he presented himself to General Francisco de Miranda, who had led the country to independence after being in exile in London for many years. So they're not sure why he chose Venezuela. Part of it could have been that maybe when this General Miranda was exiled in London, they crossed paths, or maybe it's just because he knew Portuguese and Spanish, whatever. But he went there. So Gregor's credentials were partially fraudulent. He claimed to be a knight of a Portuguese military order, and partially exaggerated. His former regiment had gained great renown, but it was for the battles they'd fought after he retired. He's like, no, it's because of me. I was there. We were great. Still, Miranda was too desperate to dig too deeply. Caracas had just been devastated by an earthquake while royalist armies were on the move against the capital. So Gregor was made a colonel, put in charge of a regiment of cavalry, and sent out in the field to see how he'd do. And as it turns out, he did surprisingly well. The acumen that had seen him made a lieutenant at the age of 17 was no fluke, and he led his regiment to defeat one of the advancing armies. This immediately gave him a stellar reputation, and he was quickly turned into one of the figureheads of the army. He married a Venezuelan woman and was promoted to the rank of brigadier general. So he's doing good. Unfortunately for Gregor, though, the Republic of Venezuela was falling apart around him. General Miranda surrendered to the royalists on the 25th of July, and so Gregor and his wife, like most of the Republican military officers, fled to Curacao. Gregor then went to work under famed Venezuelan political revolutionary Simon Bolivar. So supposedly Gregor's wife was the cousin to Bolivar, who was leading wars of independence across the Americas as natives struggled to beat back imperializing Spaniards. So over the next several years, Gregor had some great victories in battle in New Granada, now Colombia. But the problem with hitting a high is that you got to come back down. So Gregor's doing really, really well. But then it all just kind of topples. So in 1817, he was recruited to try to conquer some ports in Spanish Florida to act as revolutionary bases. He tried to raise volunteers from the U.S., a mistake.